Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Yale. Um, I'm still getting a hang of this screen record thing, uh, and I'm in a different room that I usually work in, so I might sound a little different. It sounds weird being in here. Um, the the next video, or this video that I'm making right now, is uh, less of the pretext for what my scoring and rubric's all about. I'll go through it real quick just to give you a better idea again of what it is this rubric is and what it is that you're looking at. But the majority of this video is going to go into the scoring of prejudging, and specifically a category that I have uh, written down as flow. And I think this is a good time to go right into what that means. And if you look here, there's several categories of non-posing criteria, which is what I figured out to be things that are judged in contests, specifically, I should say at all levels, but especially at the pro level. These are things that I don't really believe are like articulated very well in judging explanations. And again, these videos aren't meant to be hypercritical of the current professional judges, which I am not. This is supposed to be an educational resource, and I guess you could say entertainment, or content that's supposed to be entertaining for those bodybuilding fans out there. Because I do believe that these numbers give you a better picture of what it is that you saw, or may have seen on the Mr. Olympia weekend. So let's get right into it here. I think I did say I was going to go over what it is you're looking at, and I spent about an hour last time making this video, with most of it being the pretext. So I'll just go through it real quick and then go right into what flow is defined as, and then from there go into the actual scoring. So this thing that you're looking at in these videos is are two documents that I made. One is a slideshow that has different criteria listed and requirements for this rubric. And I made this to better articulate and illustrate why there are certain perceptions of who wins or who places in a certain position in a contest like this. And I also want to make it clear that this isn't to critique what should or shouldn't have been the case of the end results, but more so deeper insight, assuming good intentions. So I really am not a fan of when people mindlessly or very thoughtlessly make kind of conspiracy theory accusations about things. Whether they are true or not, that's not really for me to say. But I do believe that rather than making any accusations or allegations about something more nefarious or unfair, I think it's more effective to just illustrate or better articulate what the end result was. And if it happens to be not coincidental with what people saw last weekend. I guess you could say that's unfortunate. I don't think that's going to be the case. And I guess you can tell by now that I actually haven't finished the actual scoring. I think it was a lot better for me to do this right before I record so that it's fresh in my mind. And it would take me forever to put these videos out had I gone through everything before making any videos. So that's the context. I think I said the context here. Let's just keep going here because I don't want to spend too much time on this part. You can always pause it. I know this is a YouTube video, so if you choose to, you can pause it. And I did say in my last video that I will post and share this. I think it's pretty tempting. I think that's something I can admit. Tempting to keep this to myself, but I don't think it's very useful in that way. But I think it's smart if I wait until I make all my videos to share these documents. That way you can actually see what it is I'm sharing here, and it's easier to compare and use. But because I worked really hard on this, I'd rather wait until I finish making all my videos to actually share the links to these documents. So you'll see here that the purpose is what I said earlier in a different way, which is to minimize spreading misinformation, conspiracy theory type of things and all that, using qualitative and quantitative data. And in different like sociology fields, they call this mixed methods. I think there's another word for it. I can't remember this type of data analysis, but I thought it would be not easiest, but best, I should say, to take qualitative data, which basically means things that aren't measurable and more articulated through words, and translating it into actual numbers, which is what you'll see here in a minute. Here are some biases. I don't think I need to go through that right now. I'll go through it again later. It's going to bother me. Here's my scoring methodology. The tiers don't really have value, or it's not a matter of what's more or less important. These are just the names, really just the names of the sections, how I label sections. So tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. There are more criteria you'll see here in some of this. Like tier 2 has the most criteria, tier 3 has the least, and tier 1 has, I should say, tier 3 has the second most, and tier 3 has the least. That doesn't mean that tier 3 has little value. I think it's just the most simplistic. That might be the best way to put it. It's really the least complex or least nuanced criteria. And although the tier 3 criteria here, the mandatory posing section right here at the bottom, although that looks very simplistic because I just put the acronyms for the poses, there is actually a lot of little details that go into these poses, these mandatory poses, which I'll show in my later videos exactly what that means. Yeah, so that I want to make that clear, that just because it looks less complex here doesn't mean it is not nuanced or not complex. It's just how it happens to look on this spreadsheet. Let's see here. These are the details of the scoring. I know it looks like a legal document because I did actually write this pretty much the way a litigator or legal counsel might. It's very detailed. I try to make this as detailed as possible so that if anyone were to go through this with a fine tooth and comb, I think that's the phrase. Basically, if anyone were to go through this and play devil's advocate, I would be very doubtful that they could find something that exposed weaknesses in this, because I did write this in a way that was super specific, but at the same time able to be changed depending on the requirements of a contest. So I did intentionally write it so that there are variables whoever is using the rubric can make in order to satisfy the requirements of their contest. And you'll see, you might have actually seen in one of the tabs here that I'm going to make videos based on theoretical contest requirements, one of them being Lee Haney's concept of what scoring should look like, or what some new potential classes could be. I think I have an idea of what it is he's trying to communicate. I don't believe that he has an exact definition, like I should say, he doesn't have a rubric, I don't believe. It sounds more like an intuitive thing that he's describing, which I don't devalue in any way because he's very experienced. But I wrote this for the layman, or the person who needs things spelled out to understand what it is someone who maybe has an eye for this might be talking about. Okay, this is more stuff that I don't think you really need to listen to. I will go over it. I'm not glossing over this to be avoidant in any way. I just don't want to waste your time here, because I know the chunk of this video should be the actual scoring. This might be a good thing to look at right now. I know it's a little tiny, but I will zoom in on another a copied and paste version of these details, which in this video is going to be flow. So here I list in a few paragraphs what exactly flow is defined as, and how that's being evaluated. And I chose to use the quarter turns and prejudging to evaluate flow of a physique. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that it can't be evaluated in other rounds of posing, but I think if you really think about like what intention behind different requirements are for a contest, I think you can start to understand the intent that is behind certain poses. So, for example, thinking about while I thought about making this rubric, I looked at or thought about why quarter turns even exist. Why even have quarter turns when you have side chest and back double bicep and ab and thigh and those mandatory poses people usually are familiar with when they look at contest pictures. And I don't actually know for a fact, but I do believe that these quarter turn rounds were established as kind of a general qualifying, like a pre-qualifying round to determine one of the most important aspects of bodybuilding, and that is the general flow of physique, which is based on aesthetics. A lot of art students might understand these concepts of how lines should appear and the effect of cascading muscles, and why there are certain types of physiques that are more appealing to us. You could say that's kind of like a biological response. Obviously, like a V shape or a V taper in a male body gives the impression of better health, or a more masculine physique. And there's little nuances as well that in bodybuilding contests might not always be explained. Not that they should be, but I don't think they really go, they're assumed to be existing without any questions, I should say. Like, nobody really asks why we have quarter turns. I think people just assume it's a part of it. Maybe they don't. Maybe people do think about it, but in my opinion, I don't think a lot of people think about why quarter turns even exist in a prejudging portion of a contest. And these other parts of my non-posing criteria definitions or subcategories, these will be all addressed or like honed in on in later videos. I think I might end up making over 10. I originally thought I'd be making over 15, but I think I might be able to get away with just about 10 videos if I am in the zone and like able to think clearly as I make these videos, which is not always easy, but I think that I've put enough time into this to be able to think clearly and make videos clearly about this contest. So let's keep going here. Yeah, I'll go into all this stuff later. Again, not avoiding, just want to be making good use of time here. So let's get right into it. The last video I made, I believe, ended with the scores that you see here in row 7 of this rubric. And if you look at it closely, if you can see it, I'm pretty sure you can, you'll see that there's a two-way tie for first place based on the front relaxed pose. And this is in terms of flow. This is not in terms of muscularity, not in terms of conditioning, not in terms of like little nuanced things I categorize in miscellaneous subcategories like structure or fixing critiques from previous contexts, or even something as nuanced as a physique looking more open than classic in this specific contest category, which is the open class. And I'll go into what exactly that means, because I think there is actually an exact definition, not sort of like a vague, intentionally vague statement. So you'll see here that I put their acronyms or initials. If you're familiar with pro bodybuilding, I think these should be familiar. These are the top 6 competitors from this past year's Mr. Olympia. And they are not listed in any particular order. I think I listed them based on the way I like saw their pictures in their online photos, going just competitor by competitor. No, I listed them by placing, their actual placing. So obviously this was made after the results were made or shared. Derek Lunsford is Mr. Olympia this past year. Hadi Chupon took second. I know it's not his real name, but everybody knows him as Andrew Jacked, so I put him as AJ. SD is Samson Dauda. MF is Martin Fitzwater. And NW is Nick Walker. It's interesting how Andrew goes by his, everybody knows him by his Instagram handle, but I don't even remember his actual last name. I know he's from Nigeria or has Nigerian roots. I think he actually lives in Dubai now. Not 100% sure, but I do know that he is, his country of origin or his heritage is Nigeria, or Nigerian, I should say. So you'll see here, I do have Derek Lunsford in first with a 1.2 for the front relaxed pose, as well as Hadi Chupon. And while I'm going over that, I think you'll see, based on this rubric, you can get a sense of how physiques can look different, but see, like, as you get a sense of these numbers, like how 2 different competitors can have the same score, or just see what their score is and start to understand what that actually looks like in terms of like comparison. So just going right into it. This is Derek Lunsford. I gave him a 1.2. That means he placed in first. That's the first digit here. And the decimal here is based on the number of requirements for that specific row. So the front relaxed pose has 10 requirements. And for every requirement they don't have met or don't meet, it's a decimal value reflective of that requirement not met. I'm not sure if I put that right. So there are 10 requirements in this case. Therefore, each one is worth a tenth of a point. And this is scored like it is in real life. The higher the points are, the lower the placing is, kind of like golf as well. So the two requirements Derek did not meet were in categories, in the fifth requirement and eighth, which happened to be a correction I made in my last video. I actually had him with only a 1.1 originally, but I did notice that I made a mistake in his appearance of his triceps, which don't really appear to have that much roundness. And although there's definitely a cascading effect from the rear delt, you don't see enough of the short head of his tricep, or as much as I think he should show in this pose. It's kind of hard to compare with Samson because he has a similar issue here in how he's presenting his arms. A good example of someone that's doing it right, or the way that I'm describing, is Reagan here. He actually shows his triceps in a way where not only can you see the cascading effect, but you can actually see the short head very clearly. Whereas here, you kind of have to guess how well that short head is developed. You know it's there. If you've seen him before, you know he has triceps. But based on this judging criteria, you'd like to be able to see him show the actual roundness. And it even creates an illusion of flatness here. So that's why I had adjusted his score to 1.2. And then the other deduction was based on his calves. So it was interesting. His calves were not equally developed in that his right calf, in my opinion, was better than his left was better than his right. Even though his right calf does look to be thicker in the gastroc, I think that his left calf is better because you can see clear separation in the soleus and the gastroc, or the gastrocnemius. And even though it looks maybe slightly less developed than the right, it's not at all thin. I don't think he has a thin left calf. I think this calf, if you were to guess, looks like a physique that has a higher body fat percentage. Obviously, he doesn't have a high body fat percentage, but I think that a well-prepared physique has muscles that look similarly developed and have similar levels of separation and leanness in appearance. So, you could say that maybe at a different angle, you might be able to see more of this line that you want to see between the soleus and the gastroc, but it's not apparent, and I judged in a way where we're not trying to imagine what it might look like at another angle. We're judging it based on the photos straight on ahead, assuming that people get moved around. If this is not ideal lighting for whatever reason here, there are other competitors that will move around in those places as well. This is to make things less complicated. Here, just to go over real quick the other competitors. Hadi, I gave a 1.2 as well. This is interesting. So he has the same score, but you'll see here that it doesn't look the same, even though the score is the same. So Hadi Chupan, just take a look here at his development before I go into details. Very impressive, very well developed and well balanced. Kind of reminds me of a physique that's as complete as Lee Labrada. Not the same thing, but that's kind of the concept I'm going for and describing here. Also very impressive here, right? It's not easy to tell since they're not in the same lineup. I did scale these pictures so that they're proportional based on the background logos and the stage position. So although these are separate pictures, they are proportional. But you'll see here just real quick. Look at Hadi, look at Derek. Look at Derek, look at Hadi. I'm zoomed in, obviously, or I should say, maybe it is not obvious, but I am zoomed in, zoomed out a little bit here. You can see here, this is where details matter, because to the untrained eye in a rubric that is not as clear, someone could say Hadi has the better physique here, but using the same standards, he actually doesn't. So if you look here again, the requirements for this flow front relaxed row has 10 requirements. I'm not going to go through them all right now, but you can pause it if you choose to, and I will show these again later. And in Hadi's case, he actually had deductions for the same category. So his triceps don't appear, and his calves are marked down for different reasons. So Hadi's calves, I thought, looked worse, I should say. They're not terrible, but they look thinner and less impressive, in my opinion, compared to Derek's. So Derek's calves, while they may not look as hard or grainy, I like to see some distinct thickness here at the gastroc. And if you look at Hadi's calves, there's definitely thicker, a thickness here in the upper calf that shows the gastroc, but it almost looks like a cankle. I'm not saying it is, but there's a line here that is very straight, and the separation in the soleus and gastroc is not really that visible here. It's more visible in his left calf, but it's still a little thinner than I'd like to see on a bodybuilder. The way I like to illustrate the point is if I just look at the kneecaps or cut out the rest of the body, I don't think you'd be able to guess that these are the calves of a bodybuilder. I mean, they're definitely not bad calves at all, but this could be the calves of a track sprinter and a different athlete. It's not until you see the rest of the physique that you know this is a bodybuilder. And when I look at Derek's calves, like they're not the most developed calves I've ever seen, but I don't know why this is doing this, but they are thicker in my opinion. And even who's to his right, this guy, I forget his name, I'm sorry. There's a thickness here that might indicate they are a bodybuilder. And they even expose Derek's calves in a way, because I see a thickness here that he doesn't have. Even though his calf insertions are higher, or he has a longer Achilles tendon, his gastroc is definitely thicker. At least it appears like that to me. So that's kind of the thing about bodybuilding. It's not exact. They're not going to take out a tape measure. You really have to get a sense of what it is you're looking at. And I know these judges are trained very well to do that. So that's just going through the top two. We'll go in order here. So Nick, I had in third, actually, in terms of the front relaxed pose. And he got deductions for Let's see here. The 3rd, 8th, and 10th requirements. So those were based on that his quads didn't appear as thick as his lats and teres. I should have put teres here, but that's included. And his calves also lack separation. Excuse me. And his TFL, so his quad sweep also looked a little funny. So I want to make sure you guys know this isn't a diss to these guys. These are the top, you can say the top 6 bodybuilders in the world. Very, very impressive. But I'm just going through these little details. I think actually in a way that's respectful, because I think it really shows how much detail goes into their preparation and how hard it is to have a perfect presentation on a single day, even more so split between a prejudging component and a night show. Or in this case, I think it was prejudging at night and then their quote-unquote night show is the next morning. So you'll see here the things that I marked Nick off of or gave him deductions for, is that his quads didn't appear as dense as his lats to me, even though there's a shadow here that doesn't really clearly show his lats and teres. To me, they look thicker, and almost it plays a trick on your mind because of this little shadow that there's a lot of muscle hiding behind there. And when I look at the lower body, I don't get the same sense of impressiveness as the upper body. To me, the upper body communicates you expect a different lower body. And I personally think he does have the mass, but the way he poses, or maybe it's like a fascia issue, his quads appear to be less impressive than I think they really are. And you'll see here his lateralis appears to end right, like not even at the top of the hip bone. And it is a really noticeable cutoff where if you look at Hadi's quads, it looks as though the lateralis and the VMO and the rectus femoris all sort of meet into this teardrop shape right at the top of the hip, whereas his lateralis and the rectus femoris and the teardrop seems to end right here. I personally think this is, besides a fascial issue, a matter of posing. So if I were to critique this as a posing coach, I would definitely be curious to see if he can turn his legs out more and stretch out the abs more. I don't know if he crunches down on them. I think he does a little bit, but I think because of that creates less of a sweep right here. Because I think if he stretches the abs out more and points the toes out slightly more, he can actually get this to pop out a little bit higher. I don't know for sure, but that's my impression. So that's where I have Nick at with 3.3. And then in 4th, I have Martin Fitzwater, who I had deductions in the 5th, 6th, 9th, and 10th requirements. So these were based on, let's see, the 5th is based on the tricep. The 6th is the bicep. 9th is the M shape, which I'll illustrate again. And then the 10th is the sweep. Okay, so the same thing as Nick. So let's look at Martin. Where is he? So going back to these in numerical order, I would like to see more tricep here. And depending on how you look at it, I guess you could say, unfortunately for Martin, he's next to someone that is showing his tricep more. And the way Urs poses in the front relaxed, I can see the short head of his tricep just barely, right? And here I kind of have to use my imagination. I know it's there. I know, You can see the outline of the tricep, like almost as if it's on the horizon. But I need to see the meat of the muscle belly, and I don't see that here. I think that I should say, not myself, but I think when judges evaluate these types of things, or people look at these pictures online, these are the things that play into the subconscious as to what a physique or a winning physique looks like. And this is not at all a bad physique. I just think that had he shown more of his tricep, it could look better. Or I would say it would be it's something that you want to see, right? And just to like sidetrack real quick, it's another reason I think Mike, I forget his real name, but Mike the Badass, the classic physique guy, I think that's a part of the reason why he loses points in a way, because of that beard. I know the neck muscles aren't exactly a muscle group people think about when they train, but they are a muscle group. The sternocleidomastoid, I forget how to pronounce it, but the muscles around your neck are still a muscle group, and it does add to the physique. So I don't have his pictures up, but if you know who Mike the Badass is, if you look at his pictures, his beard actually covers that upper trap neck area, which I think does add to the physique. So I doubt he lost to Ramon because of that, but I do think that it contributes. And it's these little things that I think really add to the totality of a physique in the front poses, in the case of the neck muscles, or the beard thing. So just going back, I kind of got sidetracked here, but yeah, going back to Martin, would like to see more of that. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the bicep thing. When you show more of the tricep, the biceps hang more. And part of the reason this hanging bicep is important, as you can see with ERS, you get a better sense of how much mass is in the bicep. Whereas if you show it like this, you know the biceps there. It's not like you can't see them, but I don't really know how heavy these biceps are. Whereas with ERS, when he points his biceps more downwards, I can see exactly how much mass is in between his front delt and his elbow, where this short head and long head are seen from that angle. So that's another reason I marked him down on this pose. And then with, what was the other thing? The M shape. So if you look at Hadi, his arms create sort of an M shape from the wrist of his forearm up to the pectorals and back down to the sternum and back around. So if you imagine like a marker here, it's not exact, but I can sort of draw sort of like a little M shape from wrist to wrist, with the center point being here at the chest. With Martin, it's not that he doesn't have this M shape, but I think his elbows are a little higher up than I'd like to see. And I guess I should say this M shape is more about the upper arm than the wrist or the forearm. But if you notice, his forearm is a little higher up, and because of that, it creates sort of like a wider M. And Hadi is not like drastically better at creating this M shape, but there's more of a distinct M here than Martin's, because his elbows are just a little higher up than I think they need to be. So if he lowered his elbows just a little bit more and tilted his bicep a little bit further to the ground, I think he could actually have a better front relaxed pose than Hadi in terms of flow. And you'll see here in the next category, I'm not paying attention to striations or vascularity or kind of the things that Hadi's known for here in the midsection. I'm just looking at flow, the flow of physique and how it's put together. So the last thing here with regards to Martin, he actually has no issue with the TFL and vastus lateralis meeting like up to this hip area to create a teardrop shape. But he does have a little bit of an issue here in his right leg. And you'll see here, this teardrop seems to end just a few inches below where his hip, where it could meet up at the upper hip. So you see the difference here. It appears as though this teardrop shape ends right here, whereas in his left leg, it goes all the way up to where the opposing trunks meet the hips. Okay, so that's Martin. Samson and Andrew Jack I have as tied. They both got a 5.5. I marked Andrew Jack down for 1, 4, 5, 6, and 9. And Samson for 3, 5, 6, 8, and 9. So they both got 5 requirements that they didn't meet, in my opinion, according to this rubric. But in the case of Samson and Andrew, I think that it looks different because they have different requirements they didn't meet. So I want to get through, let's see here. I need to check my time because I am actually on a schedule here. Excuse me for a second. Okay. I'm going to finish this and then we'll continue in another video. But the scores for Samson and Andrew are different because, I should say they're the same, but maybe give a different perception because their physiques look different. And if you really start to pay attention to these numbers, I think you'll see exactly what I mean by, although the scoring is similar, the totality of the physique has a similar level of magnitude because of they have similar amounts of deductions and points. So I'm not sure if I put that really well, but I'll just go through them here. So Samson, I have 1, 4, 5, 6, and 9. Or Andrew Jack has 1, 4, 5, 6, and 9. And Samson as having deductions in 3, 5, 6, and 9. So I'll just go through what was different, and that were the first 2 requirements, or their respective first 2. So Andrew Jack, I have him deducted on the V shape, and his knees appearing to be wider than the shoulder and pec insertion. So if you look here at Andrew, he has a V shape technically, but because he has a longer torso and I think shorter clavicles than you'd expect because he's such a big guy, or maybe it's how he presents his upper body, his physique actually doesn't have as good of a V shape as I think it could. Maybe it's because he retracts his shoulders too much, or his elbows are too high, but it does have sort of a narrow V or a U shape here. And in terms of the knees and shoulders, if you look closely, his knee joints, when they go up this imaginary axis, it actually does appear to be right at or slightly beyond the shoulder. And when you're judging this open bodybuilding class or even classic physique, you want to see this point being beyond the kneecap. Someone that shows that well is Derek. So Derek, it's just barely, but his knee does slightly seem to be shorter than the shoulder and pec insertion. Like, I know that there's only so much you can do about your upper body structure, but the way he flares his elbows out, it does create a little bit of a wider look where the meat of the outer pec and front delt meet. Samson also does that really well here. He has, I mean, you can see the difference, right? His knee joint goes up, but his pec and front delt meet out here. It's beyond the knee joint. And when you look at Andrew Jacked, it's underneath or within the knee joint, and you don't want to see that. And then the last thing, I guess I'll just stop there because I got to get going here. But those were the two things that differed. And then I think I said this earlier, just bouncing over to Samson. His discrepancies were actually his lats and his arms, which was a similar issue. The arms were a similar issue with Martin. But his lats actually seemed, in my opinion, less developed than his legs. And I think this is partly why he lost, was that the judges, I think, noticed that he appeared to be kind of slim or downsized in the back. And just from the front here, it's not that he doesn't have a teres in the lat popping out. It just doesn't seem, in my opinion, it doesn't really seem as thick and developed as the outer quad, which is what you want to see, is about equal development or appearance of thickness. Whereas Derek here, I think you can argue that these seem equally flaring and equally as dense, or equally as impressive, I should say, because I actually do think Derek's quads do look a little thin. They're starting to get that old man look. It's kind of hard to explain, but they don't look very thick to me compared to Samson's. But his back, I think, has a similar level of impressiveness here to his quads, the way they are presented. And I think he's posing really well for his physique here and his level of development. What I think was a better look for Samson was last year when he had thicker looking lats out here. I think even at the Arnold's, I'm not sure. I think he had a better back. So that's why I have them, Andrew Jacked and Samson, equally graded, but not quite looking the same. And if you look at the total physique, they don't look the same, but I think you can make a case that in terms of impressiveness, they look kind of the same. Maybe this will help illustrate. See, like, they're not the same, but there's qualities about his physique that stand out and qualities about his physique that stand out. Samson has more of a V shape. He has less of a V shape. Andrew has really impressive, like, how do I put this? Where did I mark him down for? Maybe I should say it's really about the V shape here with these two. They both, I think, put their arms in a position that isn't ideal. I think he could show more tricep. He definitely needs to show more tricep. I think Samson's quads look better than Andrew's, and I think that let's see here. Yeah, I think that's about it in terms of differences. So I'm gonna put this back. So I'm gonna stop here, guys. The next video, well, I didn't even get to the back relax and the quarter turns, but I do have to get going here, and I will be covering the back relax quarter turn poses in my next video. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk soon.